A dog walker in Tasmania has stumbled upon an elusive so-called doomsday fish washed up on Ocean Beach west of Strahan. The oarfish is an unusual looking creature from the deep that's rarely seen by humans and is the longest bony fish species in the world. Neville Barrett is a fish biologist and associate professor at the University of Tasmania, and he joins us now from Hobart. Neville, g'day. So why is there such a buzz about this particular fish?
Well, I guess it's just just the rarity of it, really, or the rarity of seeing them. We seem to think they're probably reasonably common out there in the vast ocean, but they very unusually get washed ashore, and it appears that one has not only washed ashore on the west coast of Tasmania in the last day or two, but it's in very, very good condition.
Yeah, so we're seeing some shots of it now, and pretty colours on parts of its body out there. And this was just a woman walking a dog along the beach. And does the west coast of Tassie pick up a few of these oarfish over the years, or is this quite rare?
It's very, very rare, but if it's going to wash up anywhere, it'll be on our wild west coast where the winds and the swirls bring them in, because they live in the open ocean in mid-water. And even if one dies and comes to the surface, it'll only be up there for a while before it sinks again. And so on our west coast, we've got this, very strong onshore winds a lot of the time, and they tend to occasionally blow these mysterious kinds of creatures ashore, which is fantastic.
Wow, yeah, and we're just seeing some video of it there, and yeah, you can see why there is this fascination. And you mentioned their numbers, population numbers are probably pretty strong?
Look, we've really got no idea. They're in a part of the world where really no one fishes. They're mid-water in the open ocean. No one's sort of trawling that kind of habitat, no one's diving or swimming, so we really don't know. We've got really all we know is from the what washes ashore, and there's not a lot of that. But so when they do wash ashore, they're very, very special. And as far as I know, there's only been a couple of occasions in decades really where they've been seen in Tasmania. So this is really fantastic.
Yeah, and when you say mid-water, what is that, a depth you're talking about there?
Yeah, so they sort of live usually for about 200 metres deep down to about 1,000 metres deep. So out in deep water in the open ocean. So it's the kind of water you don't get till you move, 40 odd kilometres offshore off our coastline. So that's part of the reason why it's very rare that even if one does die and come to the surface, they're pretty much eaten by gulls and everything else, or will just sink again by the time they get to shore.
Yeah, and you mentioned that they don't often get caught by trawlers because they're not in that area. Do trawlers only go to like less than 200 metres deep?
Oh, absolutely not. No, the orange roughy trawl fishery, for example, is operating out in, over 1,000 metres of water at times, but they're fishing on the bottom or very, very close to the bottom. So they're not fishing the kind of areas that this kind of species is found in, which is a much more open ocean, mid-water area. So the fish are pretty much left to their own devices to happily feed on krill and that kind of stuff, small crustaceans, and not surprisingly, left alone, they can grow up to 10 metres in length. So they're quite an amazing fish if you ever get to see one.
Yeah, and speaking of which, we do actually have an image of an oarfish. Look at that. That was washed up on a beach in California. Neville, is that the biggest one you've seen?
Oh, it's the biggest one I've seen in photos. I've never had the privilege of seeing one in real life, again, because they, extremely rare. I think someone mentioned one washed up in the Derwent about 10 years ago, and I actually had a message this afternoon from a gentleman who saw one snorkeling on the north coast of Tassie 10 or more years ago now. So they do occasionally come in, but it's extremely rare, and I'd love to go and see it. But again, west coast of Tassie is a long way away from where we are here in Hobart.
Oh, it's not that one. It's a bit of a poor excuse. So is that a bit of a bucket list thing for you? You love to kind of come across an oarfish in the ocean?
Oh, these kind of mysterious creatures are fantastic, yes. I had the privilege of coming across the sunfish once, and it's, a different kind of thing, but they're the same really large fish, and they just float around eating similar kind of plankton in the ocean. So, again, kind of special to find these big oceanic beasts, really.
Yeah, they really do look quite mystical. And what's the origin of the name doomsday fish?
Well, I guess it's a bit of an old tale, I suppose, and a fable in the sense that they typically are seen sometimes in association with events like tsunamis and major earthquakes. And I think a lot of that comes from the area around places like Japan, where you can have very, very deep water quite near the shoreline. So the kind of water that these things live in is quite close to the shore. And I guess the shock of a tsunami is enough to wash them up and out of their deep water and wash them ashore. So there's possibly a relationship between seeing them and that big event, but really it's the event that's caused the things to wash ashore rather than anything else. So there's no real relationship there.
Yeah, and we were just showing some images of them with big teeth and eating humans. I think that was and looking like the Loch Ness monster. I don't think that they'd be doing that sort of thing, really, would they?
So they've actually got very tiny teeth. You can hardly see them. They're actually designed for eating tiny little shrimps and things out of the water mostly. So they certainly don't need ferocious teeth for that, and they don't. They've got a protrusable mouth that sort of
a what mouth?
Called a protrusable mouth. It's one that opens up and extends quite some distance, and it's effectively giving a big surprise to whatever it's eating, and it's just sucking in the water that's around that. So they're a long way from being a ferocious predator, that's for sure.
Still saying.
Well, on that, they really don't have much in the way of muscles and have virtually got no backbone at all. They really don't swim actively, and the vision you showed, I think, they pretty much swim keeping their body really straight, and it's just the fin along the back surface, top surfaces of it, if you like, is what propels it through the water. So they've got, I think I could swim away from one faster than it could chase me. So I'm not feeling too worried about that kind of thing.
Okay, Neville, thanks so much for having a chat to us, and I hope that one day you're able to come across an oarfish in the wild.
That would be wonderful. We'll tell you all about it.
Cheers.
Thanks, Joe.